Hey people, hope you're all well. This one, I sort of mused on whether I should really record this or not because I'm very aware that it runs the risk of kind of being counterproductive, the whole point of the video. Because I think an underlying issue with this character that I'm going to be talking about is that he craves attention, he loves the attention. It's a big part of his marketing so-called appeal. So, some might say it's kind of hypocritical because I'm making this video about him. It just adds to his infamy, and there is that side of it. But I think that there are actually wider issues involved that go beyond him. So, although he is the focus of the video, I think there's wider societal issues that do need to be discussed and are valid topics of discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to read out the latest reports on Mizzy. That's his username. It's not his real name. This is from The Guardian, and the reports by Nadia Kamami, excuse me. TikToker Mizzy granted bail in care of his mother. Notoriety quoting prankster who filmed home trespass is charged with breaches of criminal behaviour order. I'll just read this through, then follow up. So just bear with me. It's not too long. TikTok prankster, and please have put that in inverted commas, Mizzy, who is accused of breaching a court order with social media videos, has been granted conditional bail after his mother agreed to have him home. The 18-year-old, whose real name is Bakari Bronze Ogaro, was charged with three breaches of a criminal behaviour order imposed on him last week after he posted a video showing him invading an unsuspecting family's home. The order stated O'Garrow must not directly or indirectly post videos onto social media without the documented consent of the people featured, must not trespass onto private property, and must not attend the Westfield shopping centre in Stratford, East London. But the teenager was accused of breaking the order almost immediately, with a series of clips posted online, including one of him outside Westfield. He spent 3 nights in prison before appearing in Thames Magistrate Court on Tuesday morning. The self-described content creator has gained notoriety for his videos featuring a string of outrageous stunts which have drawn huge backlash. They include, and this will make your blood boil if you're a decent person, they include stealing an elderly woman's dog, excuse me, that would have caused her great anxiety, would have caused anyone anxiety, leapfrogging over an Orthodox Jewish man, ripping up library books, approaching women and asking if they want to die, knocking people off bikes and entering strangers' cars and homes without permission. Uh, Most recently, O'Garrow posted a video of himself entering a London home as a prank, which led to many online calling for him to be arrested. During his court appearance last week, prosecutor Verinder Hyre said O'Garrow entered the home of the victim while she was cleaning the patio. In response, a judge issued a criminal behaviour order and a fine, but just minutes after the evening court, O'Garrow was said to have created a new TikTok account which he used to post new videos. He also appeared in a TV interview with Piers Morgan, where he was asked what motivated him to terrorise the people around where you live. O'Barrow replied, I wouldn't really call it terrorising, I just call it more having fun. He added, hate brings money, hate brings like views, it doesn't matter. Well, this video, by the way, Mizzy isn't giving you any revenue at all. I'm not monetized, so giving you any revenue or any sort of traction in that sense. And I'm pretty confident that my subscribers wouldn't support you either. Speaking to The Independent, O'Garrow said he realised that every time he upped the ante and did wilder things, he would see more online engagement. Controversy, even though it's not good, is the best way to blow up in social media. I always know outrage is going to happen. I know exactly what I'm doing and the consequences of my actions, he said. He said he went to the family's house the day after he posted a video and apologised because he felt sympathy and remorse in that case. Oh, but just that case. The teenager also said the negative reaction to his videos is partly down to his race. I'm a black male doing these things, and that's why there's such an uproar on the internet. Barrow's solicitor Lee Sargent has previously highlighted the teenager's extremely difficult childhood and said he was an intelligent young man and a young man with some potential. The problem with social media is that content is celebrated not based on its quality or social value, but on the quantity of likes and followers. He was egged on to a certain degree to do ever more content. To gain more likes and followers, Sargent said. TikTok has said it prohibits content promoting criminal activity and has banned O'Garrow's account for violating these guidelines. There you have it. So there's a number of things to pick up on there. Firstly, I think this is yet another example of our soft justice system. Why? Because after the breaking and entering incident, he shouldn't be given bail. He shouldn't have been, given those conditions. He should have been jailed. That should be a jailable offence on the first offence. Not like, that's far more serious than something like shoplifting or so-called petty crimes. It's all crimes can have an impact on the victim. This guy went into someone's house, a stranger's house. That should have been a mandatory jail sentence. That's the soft justice system. I blame the sentencing committee, or the sentencing council, I should say. Um, Now, there's other things to pick up on there. He claims that he showed remorse and he went back to the family. Well, that's his word. I don't know if there's a video showing that or not. Be interesting to see their reaction. They may well be scared of him. If you see a stranger in your house, you don't know what their intentions are. Um, so I take that with a pinch of salt. Even if it's true, to what extent is that remorse genuine if he's just going to continue doing the same things, making excuses, and he admits himself that he knows exactly what he's doing. So I don't believe for a second that's real remorse. It may be in that incident he had an inkling of remorse, but he's quite a weak character really because he's clearly heavily influenced by others, his fans. Um, this thing about him being an intelligent young man, if anything, that should be an aggravating factor. Because if he, doesn't have learning difficulties or anything like that, he knows full well what he's doing. He knows the responsibility that is involved. That should increase the penalties. That shouldn't be a mitigating factor. That should be an aggravating factor as far as I'm concerned. And the more I think about it, the more infuriating it is our pathetic justice system. Um, he's brought back into the care of his mother. It's just I thought actually when I read that headline, I thought, okay, his mother's maybe sick or something, and that would be some sort of. But no, it's just back into her care, so he'll not be such a naughty boy. But here's the thing: he's not a boy; he's a young man. He's 18 years old, so he's not even a young offender. He's a young man. He's a thug and he's a criminal, but he shouldn't be seen as a young offender because he's not. And if he was a young offender, I'd still favour a tough approach because this softly approach does not work. They literally laugh at it. The thing about him being black is race baiting irrelevance, really is. I've seen white pranksters, and I would like to put phone at them as well. Um, it just shows us, lack of sincere remorse because if he was truly remorseful, he wouldn't be looking for excuses. He was actually interviewed on Newsnight with Kirsty Wark, and as they were talking, Kirsty Wark and her other guest, I'm not sure who the other woman was, but he literally took her glass of water and said, "This is mine now." This is not someone who's remorseful. This is someone who has an arrogant contempt for people older than himself, for strangers. He's potentially dangerous. The home breaking is awful, but you know, terrorizing women, terrorizing old ladies, he's a thug and a criminal. And our legal system has to treat it that way and not say, oh well, please, don't do this again. He's going to do it again. He's absolutely going to do it again. And it's just a damning indictment of how pathetic our justice system is. If this fag had been jailed in the first instance, that he wouldn't be getting any traction because he couldn't just go home and upload the next video. He'd be in prison. And yeah, I know people can struggle things into prison, but it's not as easy as just going home and uploading it. So um, this is just a glaring example of a segment of society that enables this stuff. And I do think that there is a demand factor in this. A big part of this story is the influence of social media. Now, TikTok has said that they've taken down his accounts. He's obviously going to keep creating new accounts. I wonder how many he can create. Because in order to create an account on any website, you need an email address, and then you have to create more email addresses. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. But everyone who supports him, whether they find him funny or whether they're encouraging him or supporting him, they're as guilty as he is. or at least they're not far off. And I think they deserve the same contempt as him. I'm sick and tired of criminals calling themselves pranksters because he's not the first one. I've seen people really messing with strangers and then they call it pranks. It's one thing, playing a prank on a friend where it's harmless in the sense that there's no danger involved. And you're not, I do think with pranks generally, you have to be very careful that it isn't, a good prank can be intelligent, it can be witty, it can be funny, and it can be inclusive. But when it gets to the point of just humiliating strangers, engaging in criminal acts, when pranks are based solely on that sort of humiliation, as opposed to sort of an in joke, like you have a husband and wife who play pranks on each other or something like that. There are situations like that, and that's it's a mutual thing, and it's usually yeah, it's mutual. But when you have these so-called pranksters that literally attack strangers, I mean, pushing people off bikes, that's common assault. He has a string of offences there. It's not just the home it's just infuriating that the judge could have been so naive as to think he would stick by them. Or maybe the judge knows full well that he won't stick by them, but the judge's hands is tied because in our justice system, there isn't such a policy that, your first time you break into someone's home is a mandatory prison sentence. Maybe the judge's hands were really tied. I'm very critical of judges, but maybe their hands really are tied in some of these cases. In which case it comes down to the sentencing council. There's one other thing to say. There's no question about it that the oxygen of publicity fuels this guy. So, the likes of Piers Morgan and Kirsty Wark and the others, anyone who's interviewing him is giving him traction. If I had a big channel, I wouldn't interview him because firstly, he would go in one ear and out the other. He wouldn't listen. He'd just say, "Oh, it's because I'm black. I can do what I want." So Morgan can say, "Why are you terrorizing people?" And he's probably pitching like, "Oh, look, I'm being tough on him." But Piers Morgan, all you're doing is giving him a platform. This is the infuriating thing. If the media wasn't giving this guy a platform, would he be doing it? It's the same with the eco extremists. If they weren't filmed with all their stunts, if they weren't given interviews, would they be doing it as much as they are? I'm not so sure that they would. Um, because they also want attention. They're a different kind of criminal, but they also want the attention. It's infuriating. But I think one of these days this guy's going to go too far, and I can see a situation developing. I can see him going into someone's house, and someone, to put it bluntly, beats the hell out of him. Or even worse, it might be a fatal outcome. And then what? Then you'll get the usual race baiters saying this young black man was killed because he was black. No, what's happening here is you have a criminal who's promoting his crimes, has no real remorse, and you have a situation where he's being enabled. Um, it's one thing to blame it all on social media. I think the collective news media need to take their share of responsibility as well. Here's Morgan. Why interview him? Why interview this guy treating like some sort of celebrity? Because he isn't. He's infamous at the moment, but he's never going to amount to anything in life other than this infamy. So the whole situation is just it's infuriating because this is something very perverse in society when a criminal like this is given a platform and glorified. And it doesn't matter that most people are condemning him and saying he should be arrested. If the system doesn't change, if we don't have tougher penalties for this sort of thing, it's going to continue. Um, and yeah, definitely social media platforms have a responsibility, but TikTok would say, well, we have taken down its account. It just keeps making new ones. Um, I hope, frankly, that someone beats some sense into him. Not fatal, I'm not calling for that. But frankly, if he went into the wrong house and someone beat the hell out of him, maybe it would beat some sense into him. Um, for his own sake, because it could be a worse outcome if he keeps doing this. If the worst he's going to expect is a bit of a beating, so be it. In English and Welsh law, the right to protect oneself is an ancient part of our jurisdiction and it should be protected. There have been far too many incidents where homeowners have felt, well, the law is not on our side. Um, I believe if this guy goes into someone's house and they basically take the law into their own hands, tie him up, rough him up a bit, I think that should be 100% legitimate. And they shouldn't face any legal consequences. This is the thing. They would. That's what's so perverse about our situation. I mean, I mentioned that's a very old part of English and Welsh law. But in the past, the law was on the side of the victims. Today, I think there is something very, very, very wrong. Um, and I think this guy is enabled. And it's not just about him, there's others like him, and I've seen people, it's even that, what constitutes a prank, because I've seen people, for example, taunt household guards outside Buckingham Palace. Now, some of these videos probably are set up. In other words, they're not real guards, it's someone who's dressed up like that, and the whole thing is set up. But even if that's the case, it's sending out the message that this is funny. That it's funny to taunt professional soldiers who are trying to do their job, sometimes in hot weather, and it sends out the wrong message. So I think that a lot of so-called pranksters are basically schoolyard bullies, criminals, and they shouldn't be allowed to use this veneer of prankster because they're not. And if you support Mizzy, you're just as bad as he is. Really, I think people who support this idiot deserve the same contempt as him. Um, he's obviously a weak individual, and he needs to be told that he's weak because he needs to get his little kicks out of doing bad things. He could be using that platform for something good. If he wants to use a race card, why doesn't he do positive things? I'll give you an example. There was a young black man who saved a woman's life on the Thames, and he got a posthumous bravery award. So race baiters just need a reality check because you can't generalize any race. There's good and bad people in every race. This guy is a criminal. There's other young black men that are doing great things. So, they should be given far more attention, far more traction, not criminals like Mizzy. But when he is called out, apologists shouldn't say, oh, it's because he's black. No, it's because he's a criminal. That house that he went into, he doesn't know who lives there. It could be a black family, it could be a white family, it could be an Asian family. He is a criminal. So let's just, I'll leave it there. He doesn't deserve any more of my time. But this is wider implications, I think, in terms of the influence of social media, in terms of people enabling this stuff by thinking it's cool or funny. Most people have condemned him, but there is a section of people who glorify this stuff. And that's disgusting because it's not just that he's doing stuff with his friends, he is messing with strangers. And a lot of them are vulnerable people, which makes him a bully by definition. He's not vulnerable. He's a healthy young man, and he's messing with older people. He's messing with women. He's messing with vulnerable people. In many of these cases, so the hell with him. And I think that now that he's breached these bail conditions, he should be jailed. That isn't going to happen because of our spineless justice system. But it's so pathetically naive. Oh, well, he's breached his bail conditions, so we'll give him more bail conditions, and please don't break leads, but he will. Um, it's utterly, utterly pathetic, and I wonder how it's going to end. The unfortunate thing is, if it did end with, a violent situation, you can guarantee the race baiters will be saying it's because he's black, and that is utterly pathetic. So we need to change that narrative, whereby every time black criminals do bad things, race baiters claim it's because the criticism is because of the race. I condemn all criminals. I don't care if they're white, black, or Asian. If you're terrorizing society, you deserve nothing but contempt. Um, and a lot more than a tap on the wrist. Let me know your thoughts.